Your kids don't need to come to Christmas. It's adults only, my mom said. In the background, my brother laughed. Exactly. They don't belong at the table. I'm Hannah, a 34-year-old mom of 2. I didn't argue. That night, I packed every beautifully wrapped gift I'd bought for their kids into my trunk and drove with my husband to a shelter across town. At 9:01 a.m. Christmas morning, my phone buzzed. They're crying. Where are the gifts? I typed back, you said it was adults only. What they didn't know was that for years, I'd quietly paid part of their rent, $600 every month, while they mocked me for being cheap. When they excluded my children, they didn't just cross a line. They burned the bridge. Have you ever been cut off by your own family? Tell me in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe. The day after that phone call, I sat on the edge of my bed, the words still echoing in my head. They don't belong at the table. It wasn't just about Christmas. It was about everything my mother and brother had ever made me feel, like an outsider in my own family. They'd always had a way of disguising cruelty as tradition. My brother could do no wrong, and my mother treated his arrogance like charm. I was the quiet one, the peacemaker, the one who never made waves. Maybe that's why they thought they could keep pushing. For years, I'd helped them quietly. When Mom said rent was tight, I sent $600 each month, pretending it was no big deal. When my brother needed a small loan, I transferred it instantly, knowing it would never come back. I told myself it was family. That's what good daughters do. But family shouldn't make you feel small for giving. They never thanked me. Instead, they made jokes about how Mark and I lived simply, how I wasn't ambitious, how my kids didn't need fancy things. My mother once said, laughing, "You've always been more nurturing than successful." I smiled then, but it hurt like hell. When she banned my children from Christmas, something inside me cracked. I looked at the pile of gifts I'd spent weeks picking out. The silk scarf she'd admired, the smartwatch my brother couldn't afford, the collector's baseball for my dad, and realized how blind I'd been. They never saw my heart, only what they could take from it. Mark found me sitting there staring at those gifts. He didn't ask what was wrong. He just said softly, "Let's give them to someone who'll appreciate them." And we did. That night, we drove across town in silence, snow falling against the windshield, the back seat full of wrapped boxes meant for people who never deserved them. It wasn't revenge. It was relief. The quiet kind that comes when you finally stop begging to be loved. The morning after Christmas, everything felt too calm. The house smelled like cinnamon and coffee, but something inside me had shifted. I checked my phone. 3 missed calls from Mom, 2 messages unread. I didn't open them. I already knew what they'd say. By afternoon, another buzz. "They're really upset, Hannah. You didn't have to take it that far." That far? She banned my children from Christmas and I was the one who went too far? I put the phone face down on the table. Mark was pouring coffee. He looked at me and said quietly, "Don't answer. Let silence speak." So I did. For once, I didn't explain myself. 2 days later, my brother texted, "Real mature move. Guess your kids enjoyed the toys meant for mine." I showed Mark. He sighed. He's not angry about toys. He's angry you stopped letting them use you. He was right. For years, I'd been their quiet safety net. Whenever Mom mentioned tight months, I sent $600 for rent. Whenever my brother forgot to pay a bill, I covered it. I never asked for credit. I thought that's what good daughters did. But now that the money had stopped, so did their manners. Mom began twisting the story. To relatives, she said I'd changed, that Mark was controlling, that I'd turned cold. Meanwhile, my brother started posting family photos online. Everyone smiling. My kids cropped out of the frame. It was like watching them erase us in real time. And for the first time, I didn't chase after them. I just watched, quietly. Late one night, after putting the kids to bed, I sat beside Mark at the kitchen table. The only light came from the fridge. He asked, "Do you miss them?" I thought about it. I miss the version of them I believed in. He nodded. That version never existed. It was built on what you gave. His words hit harder than any insult my family ever threw. Because he was right. It wasn't love. It was dependency disguised as care. In mid-January, I got an email from Dad. The subject line read, "A favor." He wrote, "Could you temporarily cover rent until things smooth over?" That was the breaking point. They didn't care about forgiveness. They cared about access. Access to my effort, my money, my silence. I closed the laptop slowly. Mark watched me. "You okay?" I smiled for the first time in days. "Yeah," I said. "I'm finally learning how to be." But deep down, I knew the real storm hadn't even started. A week after Dad's email, I thought things had finally gone quiet. Then, my cousin Jen called out of nowhere. We hadn't talked in years. She said softly, "I heard some things, Hannah. Your mom's been telling people you cut everyone off, that Mark's controlling you." I sighed. That sounds about right. But then she added, "Also, your brother's been selling stuff online. A friend bought a men's smartwatch with your initials engraved on the back." I froze, because I knew exactly which watch that was. The one I'd bought for him before Christmas. The one that never made it to the shelter. My hands went cold. Mark looked up when I told him. "You're sure?" "I engraved it myself," I said quietly. I drove straight to the shelter the next morning. The woman at the front desk remembered me instantly. She pulled up their donation log, both Lego sets, the silk scarf, the signed baseball, but no smartwatch. She frowned. "It wasn't on the list, ma'am. Maybe it never arrived." It all clicked. The night I'd stopped by Mom's house before Christmas, I'd left the car unlocked. My brother must have taken it. By the time I got home, my chest felt hollow. Mark tried to calm me down, but I needed to hear it from him. So I called. He answered on the second ring, sounding casual. "Hey, sis." I said, "You stole from me." Silence. Then a shrug in his voice. "It was just sitting there. You weren't going to give it to me anyway." "You're unbelievable," I said, shaking. He laughed. "What's the difference? You've got money. You won't miss it." That sentence hit like a punch, because that's what it had always been about. Not love, not family, just what they could take. I hung up, blocked his number. Mark watched me, waiting for a meltdown, but I didn't cry. I just felt done. That night, I opened my laptop, went through years of transfers, receipts, and messages. Every dollar, every favor, every lie I'd swallowed to keep the peace. The total made me sick. I closed the screen and said, "No more." Mark nodded. "Good. Let's start using that money for us." For the first time, it felt like we were free, but freedom has a cost. The next week, an email arrived from my parents' landlord. Apparently, my mother had given him my name and email, claiming I was their financial power of attorney. He sent me their overdue rent invoice, $2,800, and asked how I'd like to proceed. I stared at it for a long time. They hadn't just taken from me. They were still trying to use me, even after everything. And that's when something in me finally broke clean. The part that still hoped they'd change, it was gone. I thought the silence meant it was finally over. No calls, no guilt, no demands. Then, one afternoon, my phone rang. The screen showed a name I hadn't seen in years. Jen, my cousin. "Hey," she said carefully, "I know this is random, but your mom's been saying things about you." I almost laughed. "Let me guess. I'm cold, Mark controls me, and I've turned against the family?" She hesitated. "Pretty much. But there's something else. My friend bought a men's smartwatch online last week. It had your initials engraved on the back." My stomach dropped. I didn't need to check. That was the watch I'd bought for my brother, the one I thought I donated to the shelter. Mark saw my face and asked, "What happened?" "My brother stole it," I said quietly. The next morning, I drove to the shelter where we'd dropped everything off. The woman at the desk remembered me. "You brought the beautiful gifts before Christmas," she said with a smile. I nodded. "Can you check if a smartwatch was logged?" She scrolled through her records. Both Lego sets, the scarf, the baseball, yes. But no watch. That confirmed it. It took me 2 hours to calm down enough to make the call. When he picked up, his voice was smug. "Hey, sis. Long time." I said flatly, "You stole from me." He didn't even try to deny it. "It was just sitting there. You weren't going to give it to me anyway." "You broke into my car," I said, my voice shaking. "So what? You're fine, Hannah. You've got money. Don't act like it matters." That line, "You've got money," was everything wrong with my family in 5 words. It wasn't just greed. It was entitlement. I hung up. My hands were trembling, but my chest felt strangely clear. I didn't owe them anything. Not explanations, not money, not forgiveness. That night, Mark sat with me at the table. You okay? I'm tired, I said, but I'm done pretending. We opened the laptop and went through everything. The transfers, the bills, the emergency help. 5 years of quiet giving, thousands of dollars, hundreds of excuses. Mark leaned back. You realize they're still using you, right? Even now. I nodded. Not anymore. The next day proved him right. An email arrived from my parents' landlord. Subject line, outstanding rent. He said my mother gave him my name and email, claiming I was their financial contact, even sent my old bank info. He attached a late notice for $1,800. I stared at the screen, reading it twice, then a third time. They hadn't just stolen from me. They were still trying to make me pay for their choices, literally. I called the landlord, my voice steady. I'm not responsible for their rent, I said. Please remove my information from your file. He sighed. You'd be surprised how often parents do this. When I hung up, I didn't feel anger anymore, just clarity. They weren't confused. They weren't sorry. They were addicted to what I gave them. And now the supply had stopped. Mark put his hand over mine. So what now? I looked at him and said, now we take our life back. And for the first time in years, I meant every word. After I hung up with the landlord, I sat in the kitchen for a long time, staring at nothing. Mark finally said, you can't leave it like this. He was right. I'd spent years letting them rewrite every story, not this one. 2 days later, Mom called again. Her tone was syrup sweet, like every time she wanted to clean up her image. Hannah, let's talk in person. Just us. No tension. I said, fine, let's talk. Mark insisted on coming. You've done enough explaining alone, he said. When we pulled up to their house, the Christmas lights were still hanging, half burned out. The sight made my stomach twist. Mom opened the door with that fake tight smile. You look tired, honey. Come in. Dad was at the table, pretending to read the paper. My brother scrolled on his phone, smirking like always. We sat down. Nobody spoke for almost a minute. Then Mom started, I think this whole thing got blown out of proportion. We should just move forward as a family. I took a slow breath. Move forward from what exactly? The part where you used my name to pay your rent? Or the part where your son stole from me? Her face froze. That's not fair, Hannah. It's not? I said. You gave my personal information to your landlord. You made me your financial safety net without asking. That's fraud, Mom. My brother looked up. Oh, come on, you're acting like a lawyer now. I turned to him. You sold a watch with my initials on it. You broke into my car to get it. He laughed, nervous. You can't prove that. I stared at him. I don't have to. I know who you are. Silence. Even Dad looked away. Mark pulled a small envelope from his jacket and placed it on the table. That's 5 years of rent payments Hannah covered. $600 a month. You can check the dates. Dad's voice was low. You paid our rent? Yes, I said, because you told me you were struggling. And while I helped you survive, you all made jokes about how simple I was. Mom's voice trembled. You should have told us. Why? So you could act proud for a weekend before going back to mocking me? No one answered. The silence felt heavier than yelling. I stood up. I'm done. You don't get to rewrite this. Mom called after me, her voice cracking. You're really cutting us off? I turned once at the doorway. You did that when you told me my kids weren't welcome. We walked out into the cold evening. The air felt different, sharper but clean. In the car, Mark reached for my hand. You okay? I think so, I said. I finally said everything I needed to. That night, I blocked every number, deleted every old message, and moved all our shared finances into a new account, ours alone. For years, I'd kept trying to earn my place at their table. Now, I was done sitting where love had to be proven. It's been 3 months since that night. No calls, no guilt-filled messages, no noise. Just peace. Our mornings are slower now. Mark makes coffee while the kids chase each other around the kitchen. We laugh more, sleep better, and eat dinner at a table where love actually lives. Sometimes I still think about them. The house, the silence, the empty chairs at holidays. But it doesn't hurt anymore. It just reminds me how far I've come. For years, I kept trying to earn a place in a family that never saw me. I paid their bills, kept their secrets, and called it love. But love isn't supposed to drain you. It's supposed to grow with you. Now every dollar, every hour, every ounce of energy I used to give away goes into my own family, into us. My kids smile more. Mark's business is thriving. I finally feel like I belong in the life I built, not the one I begged to be part of. And if anyone asks, no, I don't miss them. I miss who I was before I let them take so much. But she's gone. And this version of me? She's staying. If you've ever had to walk away from people you love to protect your peace, you're not alone. Tell me in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe.